So this is the LG XBOOM XL7. Now, even though it does have its drawbacks, personally, I really like its mellow sound signature, and I think the customizable light feature up top is a very nice touch. But today, we're going to see how the LG XBOOM XL7 stacks up to its direct competitors, the JBL Partybox 310 and the Sony XP700. Regarding pricing, I am going to have to be straight up here and admit that the XL7 is a little overpriced at $600, whereas these other two speakers have a retail price of $550, but they like to routinely go on sale for $450. So with the XL7, I definitely wouldn't pay more than $450 for it. Nonetheless, if you want to pick any of these speakers up, they'll be linked down below. And if you want to further support the channel, pick up a big head approved hat, linked down below. We've got trucker hats and snapbacks. By buying a hat, you help the unbiased and unsponsored videos coming, and it also helps us cover more products and produce more versus videos. Thank you to everyone who's already bought a hat, and look out for more designs coming soon. Now first, let's talk about the design of these speakers. Basically, the XL7 has the same design language as the Partybox 310. It has a mostly plastic body, but I would be gentle with it when transporting the speaker because it can get scratched very easily, and all of these speakers have a metal grille on the front which can get dented easily as well. But more importantly, just like the 310, the XL7 has a built-in carrying handle and it has built-in wheels. So transporting either the 310 or XL7 is a little easier, and these wheels are decently sized, so they'll do an okay job of rolling on asphalt. Whereas with the XP700, this speaker doesn't have any built-in wheels, so you're gonna have to strictly carry it around. But also from a size standpoint, the XL7 is just a little smaller than these other two speakers. It's a little shorter, and it's a little thinner, and it's a little lighter, weighing in at 34 pounds, whereas these other two speakers weigh in at around 38 pounds. But durability-wise, all of these speakers are rocking an IPX4 rating, meaning that if any of these speakers were to get a little wet or rained on, they'll be perfectly fine. Just remember to keep the port panel on the back covered. But one feature the 310 has over these other two speakers is that it has a top hat mount on the bottom, meaning that you can place the speaker on a stand and elevate it if you wanted to. But next up, there's the light feature. Now, the XBOOM has a ring light on it, very similar to the ring lights that you'll find on the 310. But I feel that the ring lights on the 310 have more dynamic animations than the animations found on the XBOOM. But I do think the ring light on the XBOOM looks better than the light feature found on the Sony. But also, the XBOOM has this LED screen on the top, which also has its own set of animations, and you can also customize it as well. Overall, I think the light feature on the XBOOM is decent, but I don't think it's as dynamic as the light feature found on the 310. But I do prefer this light feature over the much more tamed light feature found on the XP700. Now, obviously, you shouldn't make your speaker purchase decision based on the light feature, and besides, if you do decide to use a light feature on any of these speakers, that is going to take its toll on the battery life. Now, when it comes to battery life, the XBOOM has an advertised battery life of 20 hours, which is very impressive. But this advertised battery life of 20 hours is with the speaker playing at 50% volume, which is already a really good listening volume, but that's with the light feature turned off, but that's with the sound boost EQ turned on, which is good. Whereas with the Partybox 310, it has an advertised battery life of 18 hours, but this advertised battery life of 18 hours is with this speaker playing at 50% volume, which again is already a really good listening volume, but that's with the light feature turned off and with the bass boost feature turned off as well. And then there's the XP700, which has an advertised battery life of 25 hours, but this advertised battery life of 25 hours is with this speaker playing at 25% volume, which is an okay listening volume, but that's also with the light feature turned off, but at least that's with the mega bass feature turned on, which is good. Overall, I will say that the XBOOM has the best battery life here because I was able to get 10 hours of playback time out of it while it was playing at 70% volume with the light feature turned on and with the sound boost EQ turned on as well. But in general, battery life on these larger box speakers really varies depending on how you use them. If you use them at a higher volume, that's going to drain your battery life faster. If you use them with their light feature turned on, that's going to drain your battery life faster. Or if you use them with their bass features turned off, then that's going to extend your battery life. Now, when it comes to connectivity, all of these speakers can be connected to two devices at the same time, so you and a friend can both be DJ, and all of these speakers don't have any latency to them. So if you want to, you can always use them to watch videos on your phone with them. Now, when it comes to audio codecs, the JBL only has support for SBC, whereas the LG has support for SBC and AAC. But then there's the Sony, which has support for SBC and AAC, but it also has support for LDAC, which is Sony's own in-house high-res audio codec. Just keep in mind that if you do want to use LDAC, you do have to be an Android user because iPhones top out at AAC. But now let's talk about the ports on these speakers because there are some major differences here. Now first, I do have to point out that the XBOOM is the only speaker here that does not have an audio jack. So you can't use it with a wired connection. And personally, I find this to be rather ridiculous because most other box speakers out there have an audio jack. But I also have to point out that the Partybox is the only speaker here that has an audio out jack. So if you have any other speaker lying around, you can always daisy chain them to the Partybox and they're going to play the same music in sync. But with all of these speakers, they all have a USB-A port. So if you want to, you can always plug in a USB stick and play music off of it, or you can always use this USB-A port to charge your own devices. But personally, I think that it's time that these speakers moved on to a USB-C port because most phones these days just come included with a USB-C cables. Now, with all of these speakers, they have 2/4-inch inputs in the back, so you can plug in a microphone for karaoke. Now, with both the JBL and the Sony, you can plug in 2 microphones, and both microphones are going to sound good. Whereas with the XBOOM, it has 1 input that's meant for a microphone, which is the input that we're using right now, and then there's another input that's meant for a guitar. Now, technically, you can plug in your microphone into the guitar input. However, since this input has a lot more resistance to it, your microphone just isn't going to sound as good. Now hold on, I'm just going to switch this back over to the correct input. So I feel that if karaoke is very important to you and if you want to use more than 1 microphone at a time, then you do want to go with either the JBL or the Sony, because with the XBOOM, you're really only going to be limited to 1 microphone. But now let's talk about sound. Regarding speaker setups, I think the 310 has the most conventional setup here. It has dual frontward firing woofers with an exhaust port that shoots out the back, and it has dual frontward firing tweeters. Then there's the XP700, which also has dual frontward firing woofers with an exhaust port that shoots out the back. But this speaker has a total of 4 tweeters on it. There are 3 on the front and 1 that shoots out the back. Now when this speaker is standing upright, it'll use these 2 tweeters and the one on the back, and when it's on its side, it'll use these 2 tweeters. But finally, there's the XL7, which has a different setup from these other 2 speakers. First off, it has a single 8-inch frontward firing woofer and frontward firing exhaust ports, and it has dual frontward firing tweeters as well. But now we're going to jump into the sound test. All of these speakers are playing at 75% volume. The 310 is playing with its bass set to deep. The XL7 is playing with its sound boost EQ turned on, and the XP700 is playing with its mega bass turned on as well.
I know I've broken promises. I'm way too good at keeping you from getting you. I've seen exactly how this ends. I never get too close, afraid to lose again. 'Cause I'm thinking back to 17, when I was young and so naive, falling into love like such a fool. Yeah, I was dumb, but she was me. It broke my trust, and honestly, I never wanna feel that hurt again. I'm so done breaking down my walls for so long. Break me till I fall apart. Loneliness is not that hard. to cover up these scars, fix another broken heart. Can't help but wonder if it's me. You say I'm too closed off, but maybe we're not meant to be. And I'm afraid of who I've been. The weight of those mistakes I've made won't let me let you in. 'Cause I'm thinking back to 23 when I was drunk and so was she. Said the words I love you for the first time. We felt so fast we couldn't see. Our story was a tragedy. I never wanna feel that hurt again. I'm so done breaking down my walls for someone to break me till I fall apart. Loneliness is not that hard. And I'm over, waiting for a sense of closure, trying to cover up these scars, fix another broken heart. Waiting for a sense of closure, trying to cover up these scars, won't fix another broken heart.
So sound quality wise, I want to say that the XBOOM skews more to the Partybox 310, as in it has a slightly brighter EQ to it, putting more of an emphasis on the vocals, whereas the Sony leans more towards a slightly warmer EQ. But the really important thing to point out here is that with the XBOOM is that its bass is mostly on the audible side, as in you can hear it and by no means does the speaker sound flat. But the XBOOM isn't going to give you the chest rattling bass that you'll find on either the XP700 or especially the 310. And since the XLX ports on the XBOOM are found on the front, you can't do anything to amplify the bass on this speaker. Overall, I would mainly recommend the XBOOM to someone that likes a more vocals-focused EQ, and strangely enough, to someone who doesn't want to be overwhelmed by the bass on their speaker. Personally, I like how the XBOOM sounds, but this is definitely going to come down to a matter of taste. Now, personally, I think the XBOOM sounds best with its sound boost EQ, but it also has a customizable EQ, so you can make it sound however you want. But even if you were to raise the bass on the speaker all the way up, it's still not going to give you that thump that you might be looking for. If you want something with a lot of bass, then you might want to go with the 310, because you can set its bass boost to rumble and you can increase its bass as well. Now, the XP700 also has an adjustable EQ, but even if you were to increase the bass on the speaker all the way up, it's just not going to match the 310. Now, when it comes to max volume performance, the XBOOM gets decently loud when it's playing off of its internal battery, and it gets a little louder than the XP700 as well. But that's partly because the XBOOM has a slightly brighter sound signature. Now, the 310 also has a slightly brighter sound signature, but this speaker gets a little louder than the XBOOM. However, if you were to use any of these speakers while they're plugged in, you're going to get a noticeable performance bump out of them. They're all going to get a little louder, and they're all going to have more bass. But surprisingly, the XBOOM gets a little louder than the 310 when it's plugged in. The XBOOM here just gives you the biggest performance boost here when it's plugged in. But finally, let's talk about pairing these speakers up with other speakers. Now, with the XL7, if you have another XL7, then you can wirelessly pair them up and get them to play in left and right stereo mode. Or if you have multiple XL7s and multiple XL5s, then you can always pair them up and get them all to play in sync, and you can have up to 100 speakers playing together, which is obviously just overkill. Next up, there is the 310. Now, again, if you have two 310s, you can always wirelessly pair them up and get them to play in left and right stereo mode, or you can always wirelessly pair one other Partybox to the 310 and get them to play in sync. So if you have a 310, you can always pair it up to an Encore, a 110, another 310, or to a 710, and they'll play in sync. But just keep in mind that you cannot pair any of JBL's larger Partybox speakers to any of JBL's smaller Party Boost speakers. speakers. So if, for example, you have a JBL Boombox 3, you cannot wirelessly pair it up to the Partybox 310. But like I mentioned earlier, the 310 does have that audio out jack. So if you have a spare audio cable lying around, you can always connect it to any other speaker to it and they'll play in sync. But finally, there's the Sony XP700, which is using Sony's Party Connect. Now, again, if you have two XP700s, you can wirelessly pair them up and get them to play in left and right stereo mode, or you can always connect your XP700 to any of Sony's other box speakers that are also using Party Connect, like either an XP500, another XP700, the upcoming XV800, or the XV900, or you can also pair any of Sony's larger box speakers to Sony's smaller, more portable speakers that are also using Party Connect, like let's say an XG500, XG300, XE300, XE200, or to the XB43, XB33, or XB23, and you can have up to 100 speakers paired together, which again is obviously overkill. I don't expect anybody to actually do this. Just be warned, even though Sony's Party Connect is super accommodating, sometimes it is not the easiest speaker pairing protocol to use. Sometimes it takes forever for all of your speakers to get paired up. Sometimes all of your speakers don't get paired up, so you'll have to go through the pairing process multiple times, or sometimes echoes do form. So overall, Sony's Party Connect is super accommodating, but personally, I still prefer to use JBL's speaker pairing protocol because it's just the simplest and easiest one to use. However, it is much more restricted. But with all that being said, personally, I like the mellow sound profile that you get out of the LG XBOOM XL7. Vocals are very pronounced on the speaker and the bass is on the audible side. I also like that the XL7 copied the 310's design by adding wheels and a retractable handle, so transporting the speaker is a little easier, and I like that it's a little smaller and it's a little lighter. However, the JBL Partybox 310 is still a better version of the XL7. Firstly, the 310 just feels more premium than the XL7. But also, with the 310, you can use two microphones with it. It has an audio jack, it has an audio out jack, and I think its light feature looks better. But more importantly, the 310 can give you a mellow sound profile as well. And it can also give you a lot of bass if you want it. I think the 310 just gives you an overall better user experience than the XL7. And finally, there's the XP700. I feel that this speaker also gives you a better user experience than the XL7. But this is a speaker that I would go with over the 310 if you already have some of Sony's more portable Party Connect speakers. If you made it this far, I guess you enjoyed the video, so hit the like button and get subscribed. If you want to pick any of the products up, they'll be linked down below. And if you want to further support the channel, check out the merch. I made some shirts and hoodies that look and feel great. And you know I can be very particular, so I'll only slap my name on something if I'm really proud of it.